primarily for safe abortions in early pregnancy it was used, and FDA still recommends use it's up to 10 weeks of gestation. Thank you, sir. So working with mifepristone requires a trained approach by medical individuals, and timely and monitored use of mifepristone guarantees safe doctor and safe patient. So understanding the pharmacology, mifepristone is a synthetic steroid and with anti-progestational effects acts as a competitive progesterone receptor antagonist. Anti-glucocorticoid effect 3 times more than that of the competitive as a dexamethasone and 10 times competition for a cortisol. So weak androgenic also, and it's a characterized by rapid absorption and long half-life, 25 to 30 hours. Metapristone is a major metabolite of mifepristone. So it has 2 uses. So mainly anti-progesterone effect. So that are the medical termination of pregnancy, emergency contraception, induction of labor in late pregnancy, ectopic pregnancy, uterine fibroid. And anti-glucocorticoid effect is Cushing syndrome, so used to control hyperglycemia, secondary to hypercortisolism, and breast cancer metastasis and uveal melanoma. These are the new ones. So it has very minimal side effects, and the common ones which are there are heavy bleeding, heavy menstrual flow, abdominal pain, uterine cramping, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and less side effects they are with low doses. So RCOG recommends mifepristone 200 mg orally, followed by after 24 to 48 hours later. So 800 misoprostol can be given vaginal, buccal or sublingual route. If abortion has not occurred, further dose of 400 micrograms can be administered. So these are few regimens. So in this, the fetal intrauterine fetal demise. So in mifepristone can be given as 200 mg, induced abortion, and in that also 200 mg dose is recommended. Then this is an RCT which was performed on 143 women with symptomatic myoma, and the myoma size was more than 5 cm. Uterine size of more than 20 weeks and the more than 15 weeks centimeter myomas were excluded. So they had assessed on the basis of pictorial blood loss assessment chart, then visual analog scale, and that was used. So response of patients to mifepristone 25 mg per day, 10 mg per day was observed over a period of 2 to 3 months. So the conclusion was it has caused symptomatic relief of more than 90% reduction in menstrual blood, a greater myoma reduction with 25 mg dose, and the amenorrhea was seen in few, but which was reversed. So this was another trial. 93 perimenopausal women were given such 25 mg of mifepristone, and that also reduced blood loss. Then myoma volume was also reduced, hemoglobin level rose up, and the changes that persisted for 3 months, and then after that few required hysterectomy also. These are the 3 studies involving 112 participants, and that has a comparison of mifepristone, placebo and vitamin B. So the author's conclusion was mifepristone has reduced heavy menstrual bleeding, improved fibroid-specific quality of life. However, it has not found to reduce fibroid volume. So more studies needed before any recommendation of mifepristone use on uterine fibroid. This is again for prospective study. So finally, to conclude, the low dose mifepristone given in efficacious and acceptable for treatment of symptomatic leiomyoma and especially perimenopausal women. So although it is used primarily in medical therapy, is limited due to recurrence of fibroid after stopping the treatment. It is useful for perimenopausal women whose myoma would regress after menopause, and the younger infertile patients with small size deep intramural myoma not easily accessible to either hysteroscopic or a laparoscopic surgery. As a pre-operative adjunct in patients with pre-operative severe anemia, large fibroid where the surgery may have to postpone or it's technically difficult, mode of surgery can be changed to less invasive vaginal hysterectomy rather than abdominal procedure. And this is the another use. This use is for efficacy study of mifepristone in pre-induction cervical ripening and induction of labor. So it's a case control study of 120 female. It's a Nepal study, and it has a 60 female were induced with mifepristone and misoprostol. So control group was 60 women, and in a test group they had a very instrumental delivery rate was normal and it was equal or comparable. The patient went into labor with mifepristone only without use of misoprostol in 12, and thus the mifepristone as a pre-induction of cervical ripening agent is safe and efficient drug. This is another RCT where a test group of 50 female received mifepristone 200 mg orally, and the placebo in a control group changed in Bishop score was assessed. So tablet misoprostol 25 microgram was administered intravaginally. It was maximum given for 4 to 6 doses. So mean induction to delivery interval was less, and more improvement in Bishop score at 24 hours and less requirement of misoprostol. So the adverse effect and neonatal outcome was similar. The modest effect on cervical ripening when given 24 hours prior to labor induction. So it is more in a patients who are post-dated. So that effect is more prominent in such cases. As an emergency contraception, mifepristone does a single dose 10, 50 or 600 mg. So in 0 to 120 hours of coitus, and it has efficacy effective in 90 to 100%, and it is dose independent. It is a data based on 3 RCT involving 2,300 females. Mifepristone and levonorgestrel do not differ in efficacy as emergency contraceptions. The mode of action of emergency contraception is primarily inhibition of ovulation. Lowering the dose of mifepristone from 600 to 10 dose does not decrease its efficacy, but the incidence of delay in onset of subsequent menses is reduced. So despite its efficacy, the reputation of mifepristone as an abortion pill may limit its access in many countries. Then it's a anti-glucocorticoid property which is used, has its use in Cushing syndrome. In Cushing syndrome, it's an endocrine disorder by elevated glucocorticoid levels. The primary therapy is surgical, but mifepristone has come out as an alternative treatment for patients not fit for surgical management. That is RU486 is first in class glucocorticoid receptor antagonist approved by FDA in 2012 to control hyperglycemia in such patients. More than 60% patients responded to the treatment with significant improvement in glycemic control, and 38% had a reduction in blood pressure. So the recommended starting dose is 300 mg per day and maximum of 1200 mg, and not more than 20 mg per kg body. This is a novel approach, and it is paclitaxel based supramolecular hydrogel loaded with mifepristone for the inhibition of breast cancer metastasis. It's based on anti-glucocorticoid property of mifepristone. Breast cancer is a leading cause of cancer death among women, and almost all the breast cancer caused mortality is related to the metastasis. It has been reported that glucocorticoid facilitates the metastasis of breast cancer. And so, if the mifepristone is combined with paclitaxel, may be the effective strategy for anti-metastasis of breast cancer. So, the inherent defects of them, short blood circular shelf-life. So, it was initially tried orally and IV, and then this nanotechnology was inducted. So, paclitaxel conjugated and mifepristone loaded hydrogel, that is PM nano, exhibited superior anti-metastasis effect against breast cancer and excellent biocompatibility in vitro and vivo. So providing a new option for anti-metastasis. So it's still in a development stage. So my take-home message is, beyond MTP, mifepristone can be effectively used in perimenopausal women with uterine fibroid treatment as pre-adjuvant to surgery. Mifepristone is also used for cervical dragony and emergency contraception, but it's a choice of obstetrician. And due to anti-glucocorticoid properties, mifepristone is useful in Cushing syndrome, while role in a breast cancer metastasis looks promising.